Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Blue Abroad YouTube channel with another episode of The Rest. I'm your host, Aris Matakos, and I'm joined once again, as always, Nathan. How are you, mate?
Look, pretty good. It was a good week of football. Probably one of the better ones of the year. Could be up there for one of the best rounds of the year. How about yourself?
Yeah, very good, very good. It was a very entertaining round of football, and can't wait to crack into it. But I reckon, question without notice, before we crack into it, game of the weekend. What would you say?
My favourite personally, D's Dogs. Watched it start to finish. Just in terms of a good, high scoring game, we don't get too many of them. I feel like this round we got quite a few. But yeah, I loved it. Loved the finish. Entertaining, start to finish. Couldn't ask for more, really.
I would have to agree. Maybe if Harrison Jones kicks truly from 45 meters out with 30 seconds left, I might say a different answer. But we will touch on all the games, not to worry. But let's start. Let's go in chronological order. I feel like that's a good way to go about it. Let's go Friday night, Tigers versus Dockers, and I mean, barring the finish, it wasn't really the best game of football considering the talent of both sides and the expectations living up to it. What were your thoughts on potentially the first 119 and a half minutes?
It was a really odd game to watch.
Yeah.
I thought it just felt like it was more high scoring than what it was, and I don't know what it was. It just was. You wanted to keep watching, even though it wasn't the most entertaining thing in the world. But I mean, the ending definitely provided, and I'm one for a good draw. I love a good draw. Just in terms of looking back in history, you love looking back at the draws, and first one of the year, maybe the only one.
Who knows? I mean, it's come pretty late. I've always thought that you average at least one draw a season. I feel like that's pretty much that's on trend for the seasons past. But let's before we speak about the end of the game, let's speak about the 30 seconds or the maybe 90 seconds before the end of the game. Noah Balter. Now we all know what happens. Everyone watched it, I assume. What firstly, when I saw that, I was like, that's probably one of the, with all due respect, dumbest things I've ever seen done by a player. Because now in this day and age, you can see the score, or you can see the time very clearly. And yet he takes that really long run up and kind of, even when he was called play on, he rushed the kick and it got smothered. I feel like he could have just maybe not lowered his eyes, but just kicked it off a step straight away so it didn't get smothered. But it did end up getting smothered. I think it was Frederick who got the two hands across. What were your thoughts when that was unfolding?
It was pretty crazy. Like I remember he took the mark, sort of, went on my phone, just waiting for him to go back, and then you look up and you hear a whistle, and you just see him rush and play, and I was like, what's going on here? Look, I don't blame him in terms of taking the long run up because he obviously wanted to take as much time, and he probably thought there was, under a minute. So realistically, even if you get a point, you don't have long to go, and you should be able to hold
Yeah.
off. Look, I think any player would have rushed, if you got called play on,
Yeah,
because any other player would have just been like, "Oh, I've completely screwed this up." It was a great smother from Frederick because
it
I
was.
think he nearly got that kick away, and who knows what would have happened from there. But what a crazy moment! I just
Yeah,
like, I mean, we'll talk on Cumberland just in a sec, but like, I think if anyone should feel bad, it's probably Bolter. That was probably a bigger moment.
it was a bigger blunder, in my opinion. Because I mean, let's touch on Cumberland now. I think obviously 90 seconds later, the ball actually prior to that, and something that's gone completely unnoticed, there was about a four repeat efforts from Hayden Young in the back pocket to get the ball out of play, which I thought was unbelievable, which not many people have touched on. And he played a career best game. I think it was exceptional on Friday night, and that just typified it. But the ball goes up to the wing, and there's a stoppage with about 10 seconds left. At, what he, in my mind, I'm thinking Freo are going to win or a draw. I didn't think Richmond were a chance because all the momentum was going their way. I just felt like something was going to happen to swing the ball the Dockers' way. But it was Pickett, I believe, who got the clear ball found Cumberland. When he takes the mark, are you thinking he's going to go back, or do you think he's going to play on and just get the kick away, or he's going to play on after the siren? Because in my mind, I'm thinking he must have known there wasn't long left, and even if you're 50 out, if you just barrel it and get a point, you've won. So I thought, yeah, he's going to go back, but when he wheeled around and ran out of time, I thought, wow, that is very unfortunate. I think is the best way to describe it.
Look, I thought he was going to play on, but a moment before that, David Mundy nearly Mundied Richmond again. There was a passage where I think it was, don't remember, it was a fair play in the middle. He handballed it, but the handball missed Mundy, and he had an open run to goal, went behind him.
Right.
That's where that turnover happened. So they could have had a bit of a 2017 repeat or whatever that was.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, Cumberland, no, I'm not surprised he played on because I guess just the adrenaline, like everyone's running forward. For a young kid, what's he played, like 4 games? I don't know. I would have been surprised if he made that distance because yes, he could make 50, just above 50, but you got a man on the mark there, so push it back a little bit more. That would have been a good 55 to 60 meter kick.
Yeah.
You never know. But look, out of, like I said, if anyone should feel bad about what they did, it's probably Bolton more than Cumberland because he probably did what was right in terms of the play that was going on and what everyone else was doing.
Yeah, I do agree. I think Bolter is the bigger blunder because it doesn't really happen like that we've seen. I mean, Courtney Dempsey, I believe, at
Yep.
Marvel against Sydney for Essendon 2012, I think, or 2013. Like that has happened before. Whereas I actually can't remember the last time someone's been caught play on. I mean, maybe still side bottom against the D's, but that's obviously under different circumstances. In that scenario, that got me out of my seat more than the Cumberland moment. I feel in terms of that isolated moment because you're like that never happens. But of course, I mean, so many things in the lead up to that was bizarre. I mean, Andy Brayshaw being stuck on the bench for half an hour,
Yeah.
not getting on, and then the first thing he does when he gets on the ground is drop a mark, which leads to the Bolter mark. It was just, and then you said the Bundy play, and then the stoppage on the wing. Now it all ended in a draw. And of course, when there's a draw in footy, the conversation has to be brought up. Extra time. For me, absolutely not. Do you agree?
Yep, totally. I think we weren't, well, not that the 2010 Granny had extra time, but it's a completely different ball game when you put extra time. One team may have the advantage over the other when the other may have had, momentum going into the end of the game, which was probably Richmond. You could argue that was a strong argument that was Richmond who should have won that game based off
Yeah,
the last 2 minutes.
yeah. I feel
Extra time.
Richmond lost 2 points. Freo won 2 points.
Yep, spot on. So that's, you put an extra 5 minutes on like they've done for finals in the past. And I still think Richmond would have won that, but Freo, you never know. So
Yeah,
that's a no for me. Take your 2 points and move on.
yeah. I agree in home and away. I agree home and away. No extra time, but in finals, I do think,
Yeah.
especially a grand final, because we can't have a repeat of 2011 or 2010, despite how amazing that spectacle was. We can't have that happen again. And I'm pretty sure extra time in finals has been a thing for a long time. I don't think that's actually a recent thing. So home and away, take your 2 points and move on. Finals, give it an extra 5. I mean, we saw it in the 2017 elimination final, West Coast Port, and home and away, take the draw, and then the finals, move it on. But we look back at some not famous draws, but like draws over the years. I mean, if we take it back to, you say Richmond win that game if there's an extra 5 minutes?
Yeah, I'd argue yes. I
Now,
just don't see Freo with that home crowd.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was at Marvel, but if 2010, who wins that if there's an extra 5 minutes? Now that creates a whole different conversation
Yeah.
about it. So, I
Well, I
mean,
think Collingwood players are said in like post match, not post match, like later on interviews and that St Kilda had them if there
yeah,
would have been another 5 minutes,
if there was 30 more seconds,
pretty much. Yeah,
yeah, if even if there was one more stoppage, one more clearance, St Kilda probably win. But I mean, let's not traumatize St Kilda supporters. They've had enough of that in the recent times. But let's go from Friday night to Saturday night. Let's go on the D's versus the Dogs, and this game probably was maybe the sleeper game of the round because of a couple. Well, purely because of the grand final, and also because of the way that round one happens. It was kind of a white wash, and the position of the two teams. I felt like a lot of people thought the D's would rock up, turn them over, leave with 4 points, and establish himself as a top two team come finals. But a lot of different things went wrong, a lot of different things went right. But one thing that did go right for the Dogs was Jamari Uhagan, the man above me right now, and that was his breakout game, no questions asked, in my opinion.
I agree. Like, I think maybe you've seen a lot of Carlton players over the time have a breakout game, and then they go on to do not much, Paddy Dow. But it was very good to watch. Just one of those you look back and you think, wow, like he's absolutely running right. You know, this guy when he touches the ball, he's going to do something with it, and it was good because he's slowly been building form over the last couple of weeks, but just like one or two goal performances, keeps him in the side. But this one, yeah, against probably the best team to do it against, yeah, it is definitely a breakout game.
Yeah, I mean, you say breakout games with like Paddy Dow, but like this was he won the game for the Dogs. 3 goals
Yeah,
in the last quarter. He did win the Rising Star as well, which was no real surprise to anyone, I don't think. 3 goals in the last quarter. I think he took 4 or 5 marks in the last quarter, and that goal to seal it was something
it was
extraordinary.
insane.
It,
That was
it, it,
insane.
it was almost like I was watching it at home, and I've kind of felt like an out of body experience, and I really could not care where the result, like who won or lost, because I mean it didn't affect Carlton for the only reason, but like it was just one of those feelings where you're like, okay, we're seeing a genuine superstar of the competition announce himself. It will be a where were you when moment in 10 years' time when Jamara's won 4 Colemans and 6 BNFs probably. Like it was where were you when he absolutely destroyed the D's at Marvel and turned the game on its head. And he kind of that his performance has kind of typified his whole career. Like good, like promising start, kicked goal nice and early. I do believe. Just kind of petering away, competing, getting into the game, just finding his footing, and then just exploding, which was the whole game in terms of his career last night, and then obviously that last quarter. Yeah, it was. I love seeing when just players explode and just go bang. I'm here. I'm a genuine superstar and will be for a decade and a half's time. I do think that the Dogs needed it more than anything.
Yeah, it has taken him a little bit of time. I'm not sure how many games he's played now. But yeah, you look back to his first game, I think it was against Sydney last year, and he really just looked uncomfortable out there. And you're slowly seeing he's building up, building that confidence. And I think Saturday night definitely consolidated that confidence levels, and he should be able. I mean, looking at how big the last 4 games are for the Bulldogs, it is the best time for him to be hitting that form.
Yeah, yeah. Like if they ever needed it, I mean, a grand final would be nice or a final, but like if they ever needed him to really just announce himself, it was now, and that poses the question: how dangerous if the Dogs make it? I know they've got a pretty tricky run home, but if they get there, if they scrape over the line, how dangerous are they? Because they are pretty good coming out, like coming in the bottom four in September. They're pretty good at doing that. They love being the underdogs. How can they? Can they do what they did last year? Can they do what they did in 2016? I mean, if they time their run perfectly, which it looks like if it's going to be, they've started it pretty well.
Well, yeah, like you said, history says they perform well in those circumstances. Look, I don't think they're awfully dangerous, and I only say that because I I look back at that Saturday night game and think, how did Melbourne lose that? I don't know what I don't know if you felt the same, but I always thought, well, Melbourne are just sort of they're just like comfortable the whole time. They never really seemed like, even when Bulldog got a run on, they'd answer back straight away and get back to 2 or 3 goals. They seem to always be in control of the Bulldogs and always know how to counter them, and that's why I was sort of like I don't. I was like, geez, like how did they win this? I'm not sure. I just look. I think the Dogs will make it. Just looking at their run, um, but I don't know. I'm not sure how dangerous they'll be come finals time, especially if they have to play a big Melbourne club or travel. I'm just not sure they can replicate what they've just done, because as much as they've played really well the last 2 weeks, we go back 3-4 weeks and they just got pumped by Sydney, who are only, if we're looking at ladder, they're very close. So I don't know. I still think Bulldogs' weaknesses are just too weak in the context of the teams around them.
Yeah, they're. I feel like their golf, the difference between their best and their worst is probably the biggest difference of anyone in the top eight. Um, Maybe barring Collingwood and potentially Carlton. Like when they're at their worst, they are pretty bad. But when they get going, when they're at their best, they're something special. I mean, we look at that last quarter, and if you look at, I feel like the form of their guns is going to be integral. I mean, they got Josh Bruce back, which is handy. They needed him back, and he will find form because he's just that professional that will just make sure he does the right things to get back into tip top shape come finals. I mean, should they get there? And you look at the likes of the Bont, who had a pretty good game on Saturday night. Liberatore is finding some form as well. Dunkley's drifting forward, kicking goals. McRae's doing his thing. I know he got held a little bit on Saturday night, but if their guns can perform, like they're probably they're the team in the top eight that are reliant on their guns to perform more than anyone else. I feel like a lot of other
Yeah.
teams can win on systematically break a team down, whereas the Dogs really need their elite players to step up. And I feel like they've shown in the past that they can, especially in September. So, I mean, and we spoke last week about how tight the season is, and about how tight the top eight is in particular. That any team on any given day can win. You'd expect they'll play in Melbourne a home final. They play a final in Melbourne. You'd think, unless Sydney finish fifth is the only plausible um, like situation in my mind anyway. But yeah, I don't quite know what the MCG form is like. I can't actually remember the last time. Obviously, round one they played there, but I can't remember the last time they played there. So it'll be interesting to see. But I feel like the Bont has a chip on his shoulder considering how the grand final ended last time.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be a threat. Obviously, they still got to make it because
Yeah, of
I
course.
mean we're jumping ahead here. Can we switch and let's talk about Melbourne after that performance? Because like I said, I don't know how they lost that. And my question to you is, are they too complacent at the moment, just thinking that everything's gonna fall into place to them and that this top two is a given?
Is it? It's a good question. I mean, complacency in Melbourne is something that I haven't really put together in a long time, purely because they've never been in a position to be complacent in my lifetime. And even last year, they were the furthest thing from it. When they got going, they put the foot down. They didn't really allow teams to get back into games. So, I mean, it is difficult. I feel like they are very reliant on May and Lever. I mean, and obviously, knock on wood, neither of them go down. But should that happen, I'm not too confident about their hopes in September. And we all know going back to back is very hard. And it is almost it's kind of, it either falls, if you go back to back, you're probably going to go back to back to back, because that's just how it falls. But like, I don't even think it's complacency. I just think teams have caught up to them. I thought last year they were by far and away probably the best team in the comp last year. I know top four was even, it was even, and they won it after the siren on the final kick of the final game. But I feel like they were pound for pound the best team in the comp by a country mile last year. Now the quality is so even that they're going to need to play at their best every single game to win. I feel like they're 70%, 80% that got them over the line last year isn't going to get them over the line this year.
It's very weird watching them. I'm not like I reckon we go back to halfway during the season. I was confident they would yet again, just walk into a grand final, win it. I'm not confident with Melbourne anymore, and Saturday's performance still, showed how good they are. I don't, they didn't play bad by any means, but I don't know. They just don't look like they've got that like killer instinct, or at least they've lost it. I think they've definitely lost it, and they've got a tough run home. You could say Freo in Perth on Friday night. It's probably a game of the round right there. Collingwood, Carlton, and then to finish Brisbane over there. So that's a tough run. And
it's 4 very tricky games.
4 tricky games, and if you go into finals like losing probably 2 of them, 3 of them, I don't know. I don't think they'll have a lot of confidence, and any team playing them will probably be licking their lips.
Is there a possibility they drop out of the 4?
I don't. I'm not too sure. I mean, where are they on the ladder now? They still second.
Should be second. Yeah, they should be second. I think Brisbane are currently 5th. Oh no, so Freo 5th. I think.
They're second, equal on points with Collingwood and Brisbane. No. Didn't think we'd be saying that at round 19.
Definitely not.
There's a possibility, because I think realistically their percentage is definitely going to help them, and I think that might be the only thing that saves them. Because I don't know. I don't look at any of these other 2 teams and think they're going to win every game for the rest of the season. And considering Melbourne, Brisbane, Collingwood have to play, Melbourne have to play Brisbane, Collingwood. One of them's going to drop games. I think I think there will be a game they just probably turn it on a bit more. But look, Freo, if they lose to Freo, definitely alarm bells for him. I think Freo this game they've really got to hit back, or else I don't know where you build confidence from after that type of loss.
Yeah, that's the main thing. Like, I feel like they're lacking confidence more than anything. I feel like last year, especially in finals, they were playing with this bravado and this swagger that like we're untouchable. I feel like now they've been hit and they're just trying to figure out a way to regroup themselves. They're 5-5 in their last 10. I mean, let's just assume that continues. That'd be 7-7 in this back half of the year. Teams who go 7-7 in the back half of the year don't always play final or win finals or win them convincingly. Like, that's not a trend that happens. So if they lose this week, and if they lose badly, especially, I feel like a loss over in Perth to Freo could be justified if it's done in a way that shows that they can still damage teams. Like, it was like under 2 kicks or whatever, just fell the way of Freo for whatever reason. I feel like then you can justify that to an extent. But if they get outplayed and if they get dominated over there against Freo, a team that they really should be beating, I understand it's in Perth, but they are the bigger brother. Like, they're the bully in that scenario. They're the bully. I mean, we saw what Geelong did to Carlton, right? They bullied Carlton for that whole game last week. They just kept them at arm's length for the whole game and just established their class. Melbourne need to do that to Freo. If they don't, then there's alarm bells. Then there's real okay, something's not right here, because it's so different 12 months on, isn't it?
Well, the top 8 is that close that, look, this magical things would have to happen for this, but Melbourne could end the round as low as 7th if obviously Carlton have to win by about 200 points, and so do the Swans. But
capable.
with just looking at points, they could finish fifth if they lose, and Brisbane, Collingwood, well, Freo would obviously have to beat Melbourne if they all win. They could be out of the top four in less than a couple of days. So tight season.
Very tight, and it's only a good thing, isn't it? And it keeps teams honest. No
It
team
is
can
only a
get
good thing,
complacent.
yeah.
If teams get
Yep.
complacent, then they'll fall quickly. Let's go. Let's move on to the game of the round. Like overall, I know we said that these dogs was our game of the round, but I feel like that there's some bias in that. But it would be the overall consensus. The game of the round: Dons versus Pies. Now, there's about 450 talking points that have come out of this game, but I think let's start with the least important and the least pressing, and the one that has been massively overhyped and over dramatized, and that was the non-free. Well, in my opinion, anyway. I actually don't know your opinions on this, but like the non-high tackle against Jack Ginnivan in the first or second quarter against Mason Redmond. Your thoughts in brief, because we've spoken about Ginnivan. I think we could compile every single episode. There's something about Ginnivan in there. We could make a whole episode it would just call it Jack Ginnivan. And it would be 40 minutes of us talking shit about Ginnivan. But like, briefly, what were your thoughts on that?
Look, I'm a bit undecided because, like, originally seeing it, I was like, yeah, high tackle, that's poor umpiring. It's that whole, the boy cried wolf type of scenario with him. So, and I just brought up a tweet Michael Maguire put yesterday. So it was pretty popular tweet. He's like, umpire the rules of the game, not the player. I can agree with him on that because I do think if that was anyone else on the ground, high tackle. The only reason I say he's undecided, he does like drag his arm up, but I don't know if that's I don't know if that's in response to the actual, just when he gets hit, or he
like
did that just naturally. Yeah, like a reflex, or he just did that to win it. So that's why I'm a bit undecided. But I think you really probably should have just given the free. I don't think the arm was clear enough, like usual, to say you've done it again. Probably would have been fairer to give the free, like I said, or the rest of the 40-odd players out there would have got given that high tackle.
Yeah. I mean, probably just preface this by saying we don't condone players going out and clotheslining Jack Ginnivan. But it's the boy who cried wolf, in my opinion. He's made his bed. And is it right? Probably not. But were the free kicks that he got in the first half of the year right either? Probably not. So I'm not saying two wrongs make a right. I'm not saying that people should go and clothesline Jack Ginnivan and go out to hurt him, and I'm not saying that he deserves this, but I'm just saying karma exists in a sense. And if the AFL were serious, they would have stamped that action out sooner or be tighter on the high tackle rule. Because I've seen that footage from about 4 different angles. 2 of them show to me that he ducked or that he dropped his level and put the arm up, and 2 of them show me that Redmond completely clotheslined him. So, I mean, it's probably the most 50-50 call you can get in terms of the new adjudication, because obviously he got taken high. Obviously, like you can't it's there, right? If you dispute that, then get glasses, right? But it's the dropping of the level. People aren't talking about that. They're just saying, "Oh my god, he clotheslined him." Yeah, if he dropped his level and got clotheslined, he's allowed to do that's not a free kick again. That's not a free kick for Ginnivan if he dropped his level. That's what people need to be focusing on, not the fact that he got clotheslined. So that's where people's anger needs to be, in my opinion, because yes, he got taken high. Yes, it's dangerous, but the only reason that we're in this mess in the first place is because he started doing it. So, I mean, I feel like I said I didn't want to speak about him for too long, but we should just ease up on him a little bit, in my opinion, and just, I don't even know. I feel like let's just stop before we tie ourselves in knots. But to summarize, boy who cried wolf, but let's just make sure the kid doesn't get CTE by the time he's 30. Let's just please look
Yeah,
after him because we don't want him clotheslined every single game.
that is true.
I think
I mean,
that's
I'm gonna stop. Yeah, I'm not gonna say anything. Let's move on.
enough. Let's move on.
So we
Let's go.
don't
All
keep
right,
talking.
hard reset. Let's go to something even. Let's go to something that's good. Now you've put down here. I'm assuming it's Josh Dacos goal of
Yeah.
the year. I probably didn't say this because I can't remember it, but I mean, you take the lead here then.
Well, I'm surprised you didn't say this. Look, people, I mean, Collingwood supporters have definitely pushed this for goal of the year. I'm sure it will definitely be a contender. Came from pretty much, I'd say, the outside wing boundary line. Gets it down. You know, the bit of the downwards handball
To the
advantage.
ground.
Gets it past two Essendon players that, in all honesty, didn't look like they were putting in much effort, which is why I think this was a
Which is
goal of the
typical
year. That
Essendon
was,
as well.
yeah, it was like, if these guys
So,
actually were trying to get him and he definitely evaded them, I'd say, yeah, downright goal of the year. But it was an impressive goal nonetheless. Runs into 50, gets the angle, snaps around. A typical Josh Dacos goal. I'm surprised you haven't
similar to
said it,
his,
but
I haven't. That's poor from me. Probably should do my research. But similar to his to his actual goal of the year against Sydney in 2020, I do believe.
similar. Yeah. It is a bit similar. Pretty similar.
Yeah.
It's your typical Dacos goal.
Yeah, he's a bit of a freak, I think, and he's not even a forward. He's a wingman doing this, which is even more impressive, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's definitely the
Yeah,
family roots coming through.
it's hereditary. I think that's the word.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go. There are a lot of talking points, but before we get to, I feel like before we get to the moment, which is above you, Nathan, let's go. Let's talk about the actual game a little bit. Pies got off to a hot start. The Bombers kick, I think, 8 of the next 9 goals. End up hitting the front, I think, maybe halfway through the third or towards the start of the fourth, they hit the front. And then they skipped out to a 20-point lead. And you're thinking, game, set, match, the Pies' run of luck is over. But, I mean, it was Josh Carmichael, the sub, or Ash Johnson. No, Josh Carmichael, the sub, wasn't it? Who came from the clouds, kicked 2 goals in the last quarter.
Yeah.
I think it was. I'm confident it was Josh
Pretty
Carmichael.
sure. Yeah.
Coming from the clouds, kicking 2 snags in the last quarter to bring it back within a goal. And then you think the game's done when Harry Jones has a set shot, 40 out directly in front. He misses. And then probably the likelihood of that last play occurring is probably 0.01. But it just, I mean, it was good planning.
No, it was 90%. It was 95% going to happen. It's you just, and I think I'm sure the Collingwood crowd knew it as well. As soon as you hit the post, they were probably like, "This is it. Like we're gonna get it." Maybe it's just all the neutrals that have seen them get over the line when you don't think it's going to happen. But as soon as that ball hit the post, game over, and not for Collingwood, for Essendon. You give them a sniff, and they've shown they take it every time. Apparently, so.
Yeah,
Smart play, though. It was a smart play.
It was very smart. So the ball gets flicked out to Trent Bianco, who saw Jamie Elliott out of the stands, takes a mark, kicks the goal. I mean, there's a lot of talking points. I feel like we did with the whole show, let's take this in chronological order. So, firstly, was it a free kick against Jeremy Howe for holding the ball?
I thought it was.
I agree. I agree. I think because he takes the bounce, because he takes the bounce, then gets tackled, doesn't dispose of it. I feel like that's for me the justification. Was it 50 meters?
Yeah,
because this has blown up everything.
Look, in all honesty, I was watching it muted because I was just watching on my phone. So I don't know when the whistles went. So I didn't really think it was 50 because I was like, oh, he just hasn't heard whatever. So I didn't think at the time, and I haven't listened to it since then.
Yeah. So the whistle had gone about 0.2 seconds, before he kicked it. So I think it would be very, very stiff to give 50, and I'll say if it was given, that would be the whole talking point rather than the ludicrous game that was before it. But I think it was very stiff to give 50, and I'm glad that it didn't because it obviously led to a massive moment. But yeah. So then Harry Jones steps back. Now, if you are Harry Jones, are you dead set kicking like having a shot, or are you tempted to do a sneaky pass off job to waste 10 more seconds?
Uh, hard to say because when it hit the post, how long was left? About 40 seconds, I think. Oh, 45
Yeah.
seconds. I don't know. I still think Collingwood would have won. Maybe it's just because like we've seen it
Even if he
all
passed it off
happen.
and
But
he,
no,
even if he kicked the 40 meters backwards.
40 meters backwards. Yeah, look, it's Essendon. They they clearly have shown they make quite a lot of skill errors. I don't think they would have been able to hold on to the ball without turning it over at some point
Yeah.
with that amount of time left. But I think no, I think most players would have gone for the goal. Like the only main moment I remember a player not going for goal is this happened to Carlton, I think in like 2017 or
2017 against
something.
Melbourne.
Like Jordan Lewis, like
Yep.
smart play, just kicks it sideways. But I don't feel like that was the same. It's a crowded 50. I don't really know what was behind him. Was
Yeah, I don't
there
know either.
actually? So who knows? But it only hit the post. If it goes through, then we probably would have lost 20 minutes of this show.
Yeah,
So
we would have, and it would have been on how Collingwood and how the bubble burst, but it's not, and
pretty much.
the bubble lives on. But let's go. So he misses I think you've said when he misses, you think that the Pies are going to win this somehow.
Pies are home.
Did you genuinely believe that?
I I knew it. I just knew. It was one of those things where it's like, a moment where you can tell that was it. And if you don't take the most of that moment, you will pay for it. That was it. And I was like, they'll do it. And it's the whole thing. It was Essendon. I just knew Essendon would not be able to defend that because even their transition 5-10 minutes, prior to the end of the game, Collingwood were just moving it forward with ease. And Essendon were doing nothing to shut it down. So I was like, this won't be any different. And it was a smart set play. They all pushed to one side and then they attacked the weak side and went down that win. And still, I mean, there was 2-on-1 on Jamie Elliott and they...
It's Essendon. I mean, with all due respect,
It's
let's not be surprised. Anyway, the ball finds Jamie Elliott. And in my mind, I'm thinking... he's going to play on. It's going to happen again. It's going to happen twice in a weekend. He's going to play on. The siren's going to go, and it's going to be no score. But I feel like the experienced head, he understood. I mean, he said he didn't hear the siren, but he would have known there would have been 20 seconds left at least, like minimum, right? Yeah. So there was like, let's not risk it. He goes back, takes the shot. It goes through, and in my mind, I'm just thinking, how can this happen again? How could this doesn't make any sense. We're going to come here next week and they're going to have, this is what's going to happen. They're going to be 30 points down with 3 minutes to go. They're going to kick 4 goals in a minute and win it from a 95-meter barrel after the siren. That's what it's going to have to be because it can't get more ridiculous than this. He kicks the goal, they win, and he does the ear celebration to the crowd. I mean, could you get more Essendon than that? Like, let's just distract it from Collingwood for a minute. Could you get more Essendon than that?
Oh, I'd be surprised. I mean, my thoughts after that game, which we can't say on this show, but It was just, look, it was if it was any other player than Jamie Elliott, I wouldn't have backed him, but he's that type of player, Jamie Elliott. He's a clutch player, so I was like, he'll slot this. And just because Harry Jones missed as well, I was like, this will go in. Of all shots, this will go in. So he sees the moment. Fair play. You can't take it away from him.
You can't.
Good on him.
You can't discredit him. Yeah.
It was a great shot.
It
It
was.
was a
However,
great shot.
let's just relax on the praise for a moment, and let's ask the question because it was brought up. Jamie Elliott after the siren or Jack Nunes after the siren?
I know
That's the
your
question.
opinions on this.
That's well, I tweeted my opinions, and
Yeah.
well, I'll just say my opinions. I think as the overall spectacle and the replayability factor, Jamie Elliott by a quite comfortable
Yeah.
margin. However, the actual difficulty of the kick, Jack Nunes, and it's not even close. Like
Mm.
if Jamie Elliott has that kick 10 times, he probably kicks it 7 times. Jack Nunes has that kick, he probably kicks it 3 times max. It just the way
Well,
you have to kick that ball for it to come across the face of goal and then bend back, because you can't kick it straight from there. It's very hard to kick the ball dead straight from that position. You have to
yeah.
get some reverse spin on it. Whereas Elliott, great kick by all, like, not discrediting him by any means. It was a fantastic kick under pressure. It was like he's an elite footballer for a reason and one of the best kicks in Collingwood's team, right? But it is a much more rudimentary kick than what Jack Nunes had, in my opinion.
Yeah. Nunes did it on a cold, wet, rainy night in Perth,
Yeah, it was
moving
perfect
some
conditions.
bloke's camera cords out of the way. But look, I think like in terms of the moment, Jamie Elliott's was better just because it's like
Yeah,
Collingwood Essendon 70,000. Like I don't, 9 out of 10 players would completely brick it and not know
yes,
what to
yeah,
do. Probably play on. Probably play on.
yeah.
Most of them would
Probably try
play on.
snapping it.
So yeah, like Nunes was just. I mean, this was like it's so different. You got this where it's no COVID. We were sitting in our rooms for the last 4 months prior to that Nunes kick,
Yeah,
going ecstatic. It was just a weird moment, but
yeah,
look, Nunes, the kick itself, better. The moment, Jamie Elliott.
yeah. I think that's the correct answer. Not many questions like this have a correct answer, but I feel like that is the correct answer. Um, so let's go from the moment to the repercussions of that moment and the consequences. The Pies have now won 8 games this year. They're 8-1 by games decided under 2 kicks. Now, I said this to you before we started filming, and I'm just going to go out on a limb. And this footage I can guarantee you, it will come back to bite me 100%. But I can see a future in where Collingwood lose every single game from here and miss out on the finals, purely because it's this was the crescendo. This was the peak. This was the pinnacle of all this build up. These 5 weeks of scraping over the line built up to this, and it's all going to come crashing down. Now, there's no statistical data. There's no real proper reason behind that logic. It's vibes. I'm vibing it. That's what I'm feeling in my heart. That's what I'm feeling, and even some parts of my head are saying it as well. I just feel like there's a future in which Collingwood could come crashing down and lose every single game and miss out on the finals, just because it'd be the perfect narrative story, and then it'd be 2022 summed up, in my opinion. But what are your thoughts? What does this mean for the rest of the season?
Look, I look at the last 4 games. All those teams should beat them, just based off just talent and what it means. And I say what it means because Port Adelaide, they still believe they can make finals, whether that's they should be believing that or not. They still believe they've got a really good chance. They will want to win. They nearly knocked off the Cats, and the Cats experience got them over the line in the end. I think if they play like they did against Essendon, Port Adelaide should come and win that. That should be a game they come
Especially in the
and
second
win.
half.
Yeah, so that's why I'm thinking Port Adelaide, if they seriously are serious about playing finals, that's a game you cannot lose. Melbourne. Look, now I have to think about Melbourne. Maybe that's actually not as clear cut result
I
as what
think
we think it will
I
be.
I think a good way to put this is they will go in as underdogs in their last 3 games, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's probably the best way. The Sydney game, and we agree, is probably the game where if they're going to get exposed, it will be that one.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm still... And then the Carlton game, look, personally, I think we'll lose it. But that's because I never confident against the because they've got it over us. They've got it over us.
The trauma. You're traumatized. That's what it is.
It's traumatized. But talent-wise, I think we should beat them.
Yes.
But I'm not saying we will. I just think we should. We should. Just to make that clear. We should.
Yeah. Okay. There's a lot to be seen in the future, and I can't. This is going to be such an. I can't wait to do the show next week and the week after and the week after that, because it's going to be an entertaining ride if whatever happens. Because I feel like whatever happens, it will. Whatever happens, there'll be something to talk about. Now, before we finish up, let's just touch briefly on actually a Carlton game. I know we're not meant to do this, but it was a game that sorts 2 mark of the year potential candidates. Now, let's just briefly, Sard versus Green. What mark was better?
I say Toby Green, and I love Sardi's mark, but I just think Toby Green got a bit more elevation for his size. I know they're both small, but Toby Green is not a big man at all and went pretty high. And I said this to you, if you actually had a crowd there that supported GWS, this probably would win by far, because you look back and you hear the crowd go absolute wild, but you heard the crowd go mild, and it was like, did he just take a mark 10 metres in front of the goal square?
Yeah.
So I feel like it maybe ruined it a bit, but I love Sard's mark.
Yeah, I think Sard is better. I feel like if Green had taken it, I think I said this to you before the show, if Green had taken it out in front, like if he had taken it with the 2 hands up, I probably would have given it to him. But because he sort of chest marked it, caught it in his hands, in his forearm, I feel like that hindered it a bit. And I love Sardi. I feel like everything Sardi does, I overhype, because he's so good at everything. But let's move on and let's finish up with the rest moment of the round. Let's not really spend a lot of time on this, because it can only be one thing. It was, I mean, it has to be Patrick Cripps going absolutely bananas against the Giants, having 34, kicking 1 goal and having 7 clangers. Of course, we're not. I'm not serious. It is Jamie Elliott by the length of the Flemington Straight, no debate. Although Jamara, it was a good moment in a sense. Before we finish up, I do want to touch on he's carked it. You're back?
I'm back, yeah. Sorry.
Oh, back. Let's continue. This can be kept in. I won't tell Terry about this. It's fine. Let's just go with, So Jamie Elliott, although Jamara with a very special mention, because I love Jamara, and I'm so happy that he actually has broken out on the AFL scene. But just want to say it's very, very fitting that a man nicknamed Billy kicked the goal the week of the passing of Billy Picken, which I just feel like it ties it all together in a beautiful bow, and really it was a fitting moment. So that was footy has a funny way of just making sure everything has a story and just fits in beautifully. So it was good to see that fit in beautifully with the footy narrative this weekend. But I think we're all done. Just a tick over 49 minutes. Nathan, thank you very much for joining me as always. Can't wait to be back next week when Port pummel the Pies by 100 points at the MCG. Thank you all very much for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the Blue Broad YouTube channel, leave a like, comment. See you guys next time, and goodbye.